Hello and welcome to Film Seizure. My name is Chuck Moore, and with me, as always, our Jason Oliver. Hello, Jason.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. And Jeff Arbuckle.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. We are concluding our, I don't know what we called it before, so I'll just say Remembrance Month,
Yeah, that's pretty much
in
what we call
honor of Gene Hackman and David Lynch, with the 1980 film, The Elephant Man, a movie, incidentally, that I saw very young, which kind of surprises me that I saw it very young. I don't remember why, but because it's black and white, I thought it was like 40 years older than it actually was. Mm-hmm. And I was telling Sarah this last night. She's like, "Well, it is an old movie." I'm like, "I'm talking about 1983 or 1984."
Right.
When I saw it, I thought it was like a 40-year-old movie.
So, Dad, it is 40 years old.
Because you go from watching like Three Stooges, Abbott and Costello, The Elephant Man, and you're like, these all have to be in the same era, right?
Yeah, I mean, this straight up looks like what David Lynch would have made for a Universal classic monster movie.
I can agree with that.
That would have been awesome. David Lynch's Frankenstein would have been fantastic.
We kind of got it here.
But it's yeah, you're right. I mean, it kind of is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, 1980. Jason, you're the expert, but I would say this is his most straightforward. No.
To date, it would have been because he'd only made Eraserhead.
Right.
But the straight story, literally and figuratively.
Well, that's much later, right?
is most definitely his most straightforward film. But this would be in that vein, I think.
Yeah. It has a little bit of the cool.
There are some surrealist elements in this that would not be really in straight story. So
fair.
That probably gives it the edge.
And I would also say that Dune is a little.
Dune's wacky.
No, you know what? I'm backing out of that conversation right now. I'm out of here.
I mean, Dune is a whole thing. That's not even necessarily all his, right?
Right. I mean,
and in some ways, I feel like Blue Velvet is pretty straightforward, honestly, as a narrative. There isn't really any true surreal elements to that, other than just like the craziness
it just feels
of its
bonkers.
Characters. But yeah, this is bonkers for sure.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, in some respects, I'm wrong, but it just feels like a straightforward narrative that you don't normally get with a Lynch film.
Certainly, you wouldn't think of David Lynch.
Yes.
It was. I hadn't seen. I take it back. I watched this maybe a couple years ago, and I'm watching it again, and I was just kind of taken aback by just kind of all of these. The imagery is so Lynch, like the industrial machines and the steam and the smoke and the gaslight.
It made me think of the latest season of Twin Peaks a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. The Return, absolutely.
Yeah.
There are a lot, especially the black and white images that he had in that season.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it really does feel like I get it. I get why if you just read it on the page, and they're talking about why they wanted David and they believed in David so much for this particular story. You get it if you've seen Eraserhead, right? Because they were thinking outside the box. They were wanting to transport a lot of that imagery and darkness, but also like the sense of hope and change into the themes of the Elephant Man. I mean, that's why I think Jonathan Sanger was so adamant. He was Mel Brooks' assistant. He was so adamant that it was only David Lynch who could direct this because he'd seen Eraserhead. And then he made Mel Brooks watch Eraserhead. And Mel Brooks was like totally in after that. Like there's a story about him coming out of the screening and hugging David Lynch and saying, "You're in.
You're a madman. I love you."
Yeah. And it's true. Like, and from that point on, Mel had David's back throughout the whole of this production. He just believed in his vision for it, and that's so rare. David Lynch has said, "I've never had that kind of support since."
It's wild to me too that like Mel Brooks had the foresight, I guess, to take his name off the film as a producer And I know it said Brooks Films in the, but you'd have to know that's Mel Brooks, right?
Right.
Like, but his name doesn't show up, and it wouldn't have been in trailers or anything, so people wouldn't get the wrong idea about what they were going to see.
Right. Yeah, because it's very easily
smart.
people could have had preconceptions of it, right? Yeah.
Right.
Well, and then David himself was concerned about it also being perceived as a horror film. It's definitely dark and gothic, and there's a macabre to it, but he wanted to make sure it didn't fully delve into that kind of Hammer horror.
Well,
aesthetic.
you know what it made me immediately think of? Todd Browning's Freaks.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's probably a perfect double feature, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the freaks are the perceived monster, but they're not. It's what is being done to them. So yeah, I mean, and it's the exploitation of them that's the horror.
Yeah, this movie does a really, really, really good job of showing you the horror of the people that are seeing John Merrick, but you not being horrified yourself.
Yeah.
No.
Right? Like,
no,
it doesn't
he's
you feel bad, even from the very beginning.
Yeah, he's there's a softness to him in how hard he looks, right? Like it's not an easy sight, but I never recoil, I never gawk, I never laugh at. I mean, the whole concept is that he still is a human in there. Yeah.
Yep.
And a lot of that, I will also say, a lot of that is solely on the shoulders of John Hurt.
Sure.
Because there are times where the more he interacts with Anthony Hopkins in that first act, the more quote unquote normal he begins to look. Even under all that makeup, you can clearly see the side of his face that isn't deformed, and he's, it's just he becomes more and more human in that, and that helps a lot too.
Yeah, John Hurt is really amazing in it. He really is. I mean, you can't find him.
No,
you could definitely hear him, right? Like it's
sure.
his voice, his affectations, but and a performance certainly comes through. It's pretty astounding. There's a couple fun John Hurt anecdotes around this. This always cracks me up. It's like, if you ever want to know how bad of a runaway train Heaven's Gate was, Michael.
Yes, I know this story. Yeah,
John Hurt left the set of Heaven's Gate, went and made Eraserhead, Elephant Man, and then came back to shoot for Heaven's Gate. They was gone that long, and they didn't miss him.
Well, and the prologue that he went back to make for Heaven's Gate, which was tacked on after the fact, we're going to have this prologue cost as much as the entirety of Elephant Man. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh, Michael Cimino was also a madman.
Yes, he was. Oh my God. All that deer hunter went straight to his head, man. Whew. And then the other funny one is he was in the makeup chair for about 7-8 hours a day for Merrick. And he said, "They've finally done it. They've made me hate acting."
And I hear that he and Anthony Hopkins got along really, really well too.
Yeah, that would make sense. I think
that there was never any frustration from the makeup and the time that it took and the effort that would go into blocking and rehearsing and everything, that he was there the whole time supporting him, really. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, there was some friction with Hopkins and Lynch. The stories vary, but over the years it's become kind of distilled down to not that Hopkins wanted Lynch fired, but more that he was a bit petulant about who he was and how he deserved to be able to direct such a movie like this, because he hadn't done anything. So he was a little bit suspicious of his capabilities.
Wasn't this also during it? Didn't Anthony Hopkins have like a alcohol problem back then too? That some of that may have been. I thought I had heard that he had, in the late 70s, early 80s, he had a little bit of an alcohol problem, and that might have delayed his star rising, which also could have led to other problems.
Well, I do know that like Wendy Hiller and John Gielgud, they were Freddie Jones, like they were very professional. And while yes, they're big, strong, like personalities and incredible actors, they were willing to collaborate, and they believed, and that tenet of, this is director, and in our performances we can give notes, but also our performances have to be filtered through the director, and that it was collaborative in that way. It's probably the movie that really ended up shaping and forming Lynch's later directorial style. Like, he's known as an actor's director, and this is probably where he really was able to have that baptism by fire, as he says, where he had to, he said he would wake up and realize he was directing Sir John Gielgud in a scene today. How in the hell did that happen? Just 4 months ago, he couldn't pay his rent, right? And could barely support his family. And then he's in this situation. It was just totally surreal. He said it was a nightmare. Just the entire thing was so nerve wracking that he had a terrible time making the movie. But by the end of it, it was like the support that he ended up kind of rallying around him and behind him was confidence building in the end. Yeah. I also want to mention Freddie Francis. This, I have to imagine, there aren't a lot of stories that I've read about this, but I have to imagine Freddie Francis also helped a whole lot in supporting Lynch. I think he was sort of kind of doing this as a favor to Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks kind of remembered him from his Hammer days, and he's like, we kind of want something black and white and shot like that, but that Victorian style. But Freddie Francis went along to have a long career with Lynch. Shot several of his movies. I think the last movie Freddie Francis shot was A Straight Story. And they were good friends by throughout the rest of their lives. But also, he was extremely well respected in the British film community. So that goes a long way.
And he'd been out of he was in the director's chair for like the last 15, 20 years or something like that. So yeah, he had been, he was essentially retired as a cameraman. And then he did this, and then he just went back to being a cameraman.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, it's like, that's another really interesting double feature would be The Innocents with this, because holy smokes, I mean, that is probably Freddie Francis's true masterpiece of cinematography, but a lot of what he did in that you can see in Elephant Man as well.
Innocence, based on The Turn of the Screw.
Yes, I didn't know that. Yes, it's probably the best and most famous adaptation of that, film adaptation of that, The Innocents. Yeah.
Nice.
Extremely good. Probably on the Criterion Channel if you want to check it out. Deborah Kerr puts in one of the great performances of horror.
Nice. Jeff, when did you first see this movie?
When I was a kid too, because I remember flashes of this, and I think I was like, this is going to sound really stupid, but stick with me. Don't laugh. You can totally laugh. But I'm little kid brain thinking this has something to do with Baghead Jason.
I had the same kid brain. Yeah.
Okay. There you go. So you didn't laugh. Thank you.
No,
you actually even supported.
I had the exact same kid brain. It took me a long time to wrap my head around what the Elephant Man was as a kid. Yeah.
But it was something that I remember seeing, and imagery from it just never left my brain. I actually have an interesting connection with not this exact story, but a version of the story that brought me back to the movie when I was in high school. I took a drama class in high school, not for the acting part. I was more interested in the directing and the, like the nuts and bolts of the behind the scenes type stuff. And, one of our major grades was we had to read a play and we had to, present how we would have done it with the idea in mind that, yeah, we're still like 15, 16-year-old kids or whatever, that if there's nudity, you can't show it. Right. And I read the Elephant Man play. Now, it's not the same as this, but it's all the same characters. It's a lot of the same concepts. There is a nude scene in that. He ends up making love to the actress. I believe it's the actress, because he suggests that, well, if he's going to be a man about town, maybe he should have a mistress. And she's like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe. And then decides to at least give him some semblance of a sexual experience. But anyway, we had to talk about how we would present it if it was like a large scale. Sorry. And I had talked about like having like a lot of revolving stages that would change scenes. And I cast, Patrick Stewart and Robin Williams in the two roles.
Wait.
Patrick Stewart as Treves.
And Robin Williams as the Elephant
Merrick.
Man?
Yeah.
Huh, that's interesting. Huh. What were you thinking there? How old were you?
I was like 15, 16, something like that. Patrick Stewart, I knew was
Patrick
a stage.
Stewart I see it immediately.
Yeah, I mean, he's a stage presence. He's,
I see it immediately. Yeah.
Robin Williams, I just thought it's like, this is a guy who can do drama very well, and he does have a physicality to him.
He was kind of in his little bit more of his like serious role phase probably back then too. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So I
It would
just,
be interesting to see him truly have to be that restrained under makeup.
Sure.
But I would trust him more before I would trust someone like Jim Carrey or something.
Oh yeah. But I specifically was thinking about, like, I know this would have been before Jim Carrey's like rise, because that was a couple of years later.
Yeah, exactly.
But I was trying to figure out, it's like, I feel like I needed like a physical comedian type who could do serious.
Yeah.
And
I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see it now. That makes sense.
What about Andy Serkis?
Oh, he would
Say
be
what?
great. He'd be great. I think he'd be
Oh,
good.
sure. Oh, absolutely.
He would be really good on the stage, I feel.
Oh,
like.
yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I ended up, I volunteered. That was the only time in my life I volunteered to give a presentation first. I always would go second, but I went first this time. The teacher was like, well, Jeff just set the standard here.
Oh.
And I got like a high A on that presentation.
Let's spend the next hour and a half talking about your presentation.
Well,
that's cool. That's very cool.
This is so let's talk about my presentation. Jeff Arbuckle presents a David Lynch film, The Elephant Man. When I was 3 years old, I was really into business. So anyway, that brought me back to watching this movie, and then I watched it probably again later in the 90s, but probably not since.
It's been a long time for me too, which made me forget about certain scenes and their intent. Like the opening, I totally had erased from my mind.
Oh yeah, the imprint, the idea of that imprinting of the elephants.
Yeah, and the way it's shot, it also
impression. Yeah.
The way it's shot, it also looks a little rapey and sexual, which I'm sure Lynch was kind of intending, right? Even though,
well, if you really kind of think about like that whole idea of that, that imprinting, there is also. There's an element there that it's like, oh, something has gotten into your wife and ruined your child, good sir, or something. It's very, there is a psychosexual element to that.
There's also the story, like it's the way the story would be told at the circus too, like
100%.
So it's like a dual part there. Yeah, it's good stuff. But I had forgotten about that. The elephant attacking the woman who is John Merrick's mom and basically causing the Elephant Man, right?
Yeah. It's kind of also interesting because you brought up John Merrick. His real name is Joseph, but
Yeah.
since this movie, it's always been John Merrick, the Elephant Man. Like when
It is. People do think.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's because like when people talked about Michael Jackson buying his skeleton or whatever, it was always referred to as John, not Joseph.
I totally fucking forgot that too.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Hey, Michael Jackson bought a skeleton? I never.
Yeah.
Really?
You didn't know that?
I don't think so.
That was always I don't know if it was real, but Michael Jackson never denied it.
What?
Yeah, because the skeleton existed. Like it was, that.
Sure, but was it? It would have been buried, I think, right?
No, it was in the hospital. It was in.
Well, I thought they only had a few things, like his like head, they had casts of things,
but
and his
he
internal
kept.
organs.
No, the internal organs were destroyed in World War II. The
Yeah.
skeleton survived.
I never hadn't heard anything about this.
But it was also, but from what I understand, Treves had dissected him. So it was like in pieces because of the way that he had to study the gigantism.
So Paul McCartney probably told Michael Jackson to buy his music catalog and the Elephant Man skeleton, and he did both.
Yeah, and he's like, well, shit, I didn't think he was going to do both.
And then he bought my music catalog, the bastard. I had to add something historically true to this. He did buy that catalog. We've already covered this is about Joseph John Merrick and his kind of, I don't even know what you'd call it. What would you call overall what happens? Like his assimilation or semi-assimilation into society a little bit?
Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, obviously, first we see him as the sideshow performer, right? He's a freak on the freak show. Very popular at this time, but as we see that he's maybe a little bit too much of a freak for even the authorities to turn a blind eye on, right? Because there was kind of like this understanding of the freak show as not obscene because the freaks, they needed to make a living, and this was seen as like societally justified because they had to make a living, and people are curious by nature anyway. So it was
especially at this time, there's a lot of medical curiosities.
Yes, that as well. I mean, the medical profession, industrial revolution is exploding. This idea of what it is to be a medical doctor is changing.
Well, this is also the time, the origin of Island of Lost Souls, of Dr. Moreau's story and all of that. That it's all of this kind of almost perverted obsession with the concept of man cutting things apart, splicing things, understanding how biology works. It's really weird. And freak shows were part of that. It was for the common man to be able to see that.
Yeah, what did they call it when the medical rooms where all the doctors would watch it? What's the term for that? Some medical
theater. A theater.
Yeah, it was
medical theater.
The medical theater. Yeah.
Theater,
which becomes a very interesting kind of double standard that develops right from the start.
Absolutely.
You feel it, like as an audience member, you feel it's like, wow, this is just another form of exploitation with the guise of we must learn, right? There's that early dehumanizing of Merrick until they start to understand him better. But I'm jumping ahead.
We'll get there.
Yeah. But yeah, we first I guess got to talk about his time in the freak show and what that looks like. They're kind of being barred from performing. His owner, as he likes to call himself, he's the owner proprietor, but also business partner of Merrick, right? But he's really he's probably
those are really squishy terms that he uses depending on who he's talking to.
I don't know the real story, but he was probably sold to what's his name?
Freddie.
Mr. Bites.
Bites.
Mr. Bites.
as to Bites, who is played by the great Freddie Jones. He's probably sold by Merrick's family to Bites. And yes, it is sort of this mutually symbiotic relationship where the freak show promoter gets paid by presenting the Elephant Man, and the Elephant Man gets to live essentially some sort of life. But obviously, like, a lot of the freaks of that time were empowered. In fact, a lot of them ran their own shows.
So they almost had like a union.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of like in Todd Browning's Freaks, right? There was a camaraderie, and we'll see that a little bit later in this movie. But that's not, unfortunately, Merrick's fate. He's being abused by his master.
Well, yeah, because Bites is a drunk and a slimy guy, and but we also get, like you were saying, there's a little bit of exploitation because Treves is roaming the place.
Yeah.
And my first note was the last place I'd go in a sideshow of Creepy Circus, at a Creepy Circus, is anywhere with a sign that reads no entry. But then again, it is Anthony Hopkins, so it's like, fine. Yeah, he's dealt with killer dummies and fucking eating people, so yeah, sure. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Treves had heard. We don't really see this, but the legend, I think, of the Elephant Man is growing, right? And Treves heard there's this atrocity so big or whatever that it kind of draws him to him, because, like you were saying, the medical world was trying to make the next discovery or trying to be the next big thing, which again is like handing over that the ownership of the exhibit in a way, right?
And yeah, there's a sense of this one-upism as well within the medical community, right?
Yes.
Because they all have these societal clubs and things, and it's,
what are you sitting on, old Treves?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That guy wants to know. Yeah, it's like, just keep it quiet. You'll see at the society meeting or whatever he calls it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because he walks in, he sees the guy with the bag on his head. He's like, "What's under there, old Treves?" It's almost like when he walks in, it's almost like you should have a monocle that like starts spinning. It's like, whoop, 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 whoop.
Yes. His eyebrows go dart up and down.
Yeah.
But yeah, but the police come and shut down the exhibit, so he's turned away. So he puts one of his best boys on the job. He's got his little street rats that kind of help him find things and inform him of things, which is probably how he heard of the Elephant Man in the first place, right?
Probably, yeah.
And he's in the middle of surgery. It's a machine accident, so it's kind of like
a lot more injuries. Like,
sure are. And it's interesting because there's a little bit of commentary there on the Industrial Revolution, and it's this emergence of technology faster than medical science can keep up with. But the dangers inherent in it, right? We've been seeing, like you said, Chuck, we've been seeing a lot more of these machine injuries. So there's sort of that the underlying sort of sense of industrialization throughout this movie. That
and our machinery.
Was, like, so happy to indulge in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And our machinery too is people.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah. Like it, because there's a melding later in the movie that you're just like, oh, that's super fucking cool.
Very cool. But, yeah. So he gets the boy comes and says, I found him. He's like, okay, I'll come find you later. And that's when he goes and he meets with Freddie Jones, and he wants a private show. He pays him,
and he'll pay handsomely for it.
Exactly. And he gets his private show. You don't see the Elephant Man yet, though. You still have not seen him, but you do see Anthony Hopkins put in like probably one of the most famous single tear cry shots in the history of cinema. It's perfectly lit and photographed. It's like, wow, that was a good day. Everybody was probably really happy with their work.
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
And it's
I
like,
told
this is
Sarah,
why we get Freddie Francis.
well, this is why you need an Oscar winner to. I mean,
Right.
had he won one yet?
Twice. He was 2 for 2 back in the 60s. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of those films was one of David Lynch's favorite looking movies. I can't remember which one it was. It was the, hang on a second. I'll tell you.
I'm not
Oh,
sure.
I was just to clarify. I was talking about Sir Anthony Hopkins and his shot.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, everything is perfect there.
Yeah.
Oh, no, and Hopkins had not won anything.
But
No,
you can
not at
see
that
it,
point.
You can see it in this movie in that scene. You're like, that's the dude right there. You need it.
Sons and Lovers was the one that Lynch was like, oh, we can get
I've
this
never
guy.
seen it.
Yeah.
Interesting. But yeah, was Hopkins? I mean, he was a name, but he wasn't.
Oh, yeah. He was already in
Huge on the
Magic by
stage.
this.
But he
Yeah,
wasn't,
he was
I don't
huge
think-
on stage.
But
He was
wasn't
already
like a massive star yet.
no, but he was known enough where because he had already been in Magic, which got a little bit of acclaim for him, and then it seems like he was in something else around this time too. But
Audrey
yeah,
Rose got a little bit of smoke for that.
Like he had to be big enough to where he would be like looking down his nose at David Lynch a little bit,
Well,
right?
he was
like
he in England he was very well known, especially for his stage work. Yeah, and that's where they were shooting. Like he would David Lynch was walking onto his turf.
yeah, absolutely.
I guess Bridge Too Far in '77, but I don't remember how big a role. There was a lot of people in that. I really think this is other than Corky and Audrey Rose, which were sort of bigger budget B films. This was probably the one that put him on at least the Academy's map, right?
yeah, but he had been. I mean, again, like the year before was Magic, so he was already kind of on the Hollywood track.
If I saw
but-
those two movies back to back, I'd be like, we want this guy in some movies, 100%. Yeah.
Because it would be shortly after this that he's in The Bounty, which is a big movie for Mel Gibson, and he's going toe to toe with him.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a big one for
I've never
him there.
seen that one either. I've been curious about that one.
God, Jason, have you seen any movies?
I'm not. I haven't watched movies, guys.
What are we doing on this show?
I mean, I've clearly seen all those movies. No, but so they come to some kind of agreement, right? And I don't know what that agreement is, but
It's a very one-sidedly creepy.
yes, Bites is like we're in an understanding. Yes,
he says more than money has exchanged hands this night. So I was like, ooh, that's what? And I think that's kind of Hopkins' reaction too. Is kind of like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, sure, shake and get out of here. Treves, he's like, yeah, okay. I think I just want to talk to Merrick. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he does show up the next day. Merrick does. He's in that, the town that dreaded sundown gear.
Yep.
And everybody at the hospital is all intake is all aflutter about who this man is, and he smells real bad. And Treves comes out, and he's like, oh yes, he's with me, and he takes him up to talk to him in the isolation ward. Is that what he called it?
Yeah, they're like long-term, almost like
He's not
apartments.
in there yet. He's not in there yet.
He takes him to his office.
Yeah.
This time he's just in his office.
But the idea is that it's after he returns late that it's like, well, I've got to take over care of him. And he puts him in like that isolation, like apartment.
Yeah.
For like the long-term sick. Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, he tries to interview him in his office, and he's pretty cagey, not saying anything, just hanging out. Does he take his He still doesn't even take the bag off his head. He's still
No, we don't see.
He says, "Let me get a look at you." So I think he does examine him, but we don't see
we
it.
don't see it.
Right, because then it goes to, because the guy walks in before he's taken anything from him, coat, hat, anything. And then after, he's like, well, I guess I better go ahead and examine you now. And then it then transitions to the society meeting.
Oh yes,
Because there is like this mystery about whether, like, if you don't know the story of John Merrick or whatever, like a mystery to whether he can talk or if he's just a grunting idiot, if he can even hear, because he doesn't follow directions very well ever up to this point with anything. So there is an air of mystery about his condition, his smarts, and all that hasn't been lifted at all yet.
Yes, and that's going to play an important part for his ability to stay at that hospital a little bit
such
later.
a great scene later.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because it changed. I think it changes every single character's trajectory at that point.
Agree.
Because I think it changes Treves into a truly altruistic person at this point.
But he does so Merrick does stay for a long time. So he's probably examined for quite a while, and he goes back to the circus, and his drunk owner Bites is like, "Where the fuck have you been?" and basically beats the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Probably near death.
Bad enough to where then Treves has to return because Bites is like, "Oh shit.
I almost killed him." He
Yeah,
fell. He fell.
I took too big of a bite."
Yeah, he definitely fell down.
Bite's boy is the one who runs to get Treves.
Yep.
He said he's in trouble, and he's like, "What does he sound like?" And he does
the breathing,
like breathing, or labored breathing. So he runs and follows the boy to go and examine him.
I like the idea that, or no, I don't like the idea, but I like the inference that his living conditions has given him the chronic bronchitis, because you would think that would be very moldy and like humid, and because that goes away after a very short time once he stays permanently.
It's true, and it also he doesn't do the slurping. He doesn't have like that that phlegminess to him, right? He probably it was probably one, a defense mechanism not to speak, but two, probably it was just labored because of the chronic bronchitis.
I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah, and in 1880, that's possibly a death sentence to have chronic bronchitis.
He was going to die much earlier. It sucks in 2025, man.
Right? Yeah,
it really does.
Because we come to find out that he's 21 at this time. Right,
yes.
21 years old, and I bet he would have died this year had Treves not shown up. So it is kind of fortuitous for him that Treves is being like hawkish about him, or I don't even know if that's the right word that I'm using there, but he's
good enough for me.
Yeah. So yeah, he does tell Bites. Treves tells Bites, like, I can't care for him here. He has to come back with me. Like, I can't. There's nothing I can do for him here. So he does end up taking him back to the hospital and sneaking him, right? Like, he's trying to sneak him into that ward because he knows, as we find out later, that there's no cure for this man. Like, he's a curiosity. He's not someone you can cure, right? Which is what the hospital is very, like, staunch about. Like,
it's a hospital of curables. There are other institutions, hospitals for incurables, that handle cases like his, and it makes a lot of sense, like that a division of workforce, right? Because you can't just you have your specialties, right?
Well, yeah,
it's a healing hospital, and this is a convalescence hospice, essentially.
If you admit everyone that you cannot cure, then you'll run out of beds for the curable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And you probably had to make some hard decisions with that. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it is because it is referenced also, like how much time he ends up spending with Merrick. but anyway, he gets in there and he realizes it's like, man, he's got a lot of problems here. He's also already discovered that he can't lie down. That he has to sleep
sitting up. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They don't really go into it too much as to why, but you got to imagine the curvature of his spine and his lungs are probably a little bit collapsed in on themselves.
Yeah.
Which obviously then isn't helping his situation.
Well,
bronchitis.
it's the weight of his head that will ultimately asphyxiate him.
Yeah, right. His head is too heavy and it will collapse probably his windpipe. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Spoiler alert, in real life, that is how he died.
Yes.
He had slumped over or he fell over or, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
I like the
more poetic version of that.
Yes, I do. I do like the more poetic version of that. But he still died technically in the same way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So taking a truth and making it beautiful. Yeah.
So he so basically the first time we actually see him, it's not a big reveal. I mean, like we saw the shadow, we saw the silhouette of him, and he talked about like the various things. He's got numerous tumors on his back. He's got a skull that is terribly misshapen and overgrown. His right hand is useless. I mean, his right arm isn't useless, but what he has as a right hand can't really.
Well, no, he's got an arm that's useless. And the left arm that's normal. Yeah.
Right. The left arm is normal, but he does move his right arm. It's his hand that he keeps covered because it's essentially what looks kind of like a flipper, more than anything. It's not really usable as a hand.
They say it's useless.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, I think they actually say that.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, because it's certainly the arm is useful because he does use it, but but yeah, he's got a severe curvature of the spine. He's, they're like the right side of his face has a lot of growth that the left side doesn't necessarily have. But the big reveal of actually seeing him is not a big moment in the movie. The nurse just walks in on him and he's just off. He's kind of in the distance.
Well, he's
in the bed.
He's in the bed. Yeah.
Yeah.
He turns.
Great.
It's a dramatic kind of swoosh turn of the head. And then cut back to her, like hard cut back to her in terror. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that scene too because it's great tension building because at the time that Treves is talking to his superior, they keep cutting back and he's like, do you want to meet him? Right? Do you want to meet my guy? And that's when the nurse walks in because they keep cutting back and forth and it's really well done. Treves just her screaming her face off and he runs up there.
Yeah. So, yeah, he ends up working with Merrick to basically, he discovers that Merrick can speak this whole time. And, he's teaching him a certain prayer, like a
Psalm 23. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, this is what you're going to say to my boss when he comes in.
He's coaching him on the interview, like giving him answers, like he's going to prompt him at certain times. Yeah.
Because this is at the point where he's like, even the boss is like, you can't keep him here. It's like, this is just not going to work out. And, he's already gotten the warning from, what's her name? Nurse, Mrs. Mothershead. That's already been like, yeah, no, what are we doing here? And now he's getting the warning from Sir John Gielgud, and
there's also kind of the line like he doesn't want to keep him if he's mentally has an intellectual disability or mental disability, but you almost kind of think, well, wouldn't you not want to keep him even if he keep him in the hospital, even if you were, right? Like, we can only cure if there's nothing to cure. Like, what can we do? But he says that one thing about, dear God, I hope he is, an idiot, right? Because,
Oh yeah, it's hang on a second here. I've got it. Oh, he's an imbecile, probably from birth. Man's a complete idiot. Pray to God he's an idiot.
yes. So when they
That's compassionate, though. He's being compassionate. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, I think that the fact that he is intelligent, rational mind underneath there, not disabled, is aware of himself and his surroundings, and is capable of learning and all these things, like a normal human brain. That makes him so much more tragic.
100%.
Right? And that's what everyone is like. That's where John Gielgud is when he realizes that. He's like,
Oh,
he never comes right out and says it, but it's like, that he's not going to be the person to turn him out. He just can't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
The compassion is there, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, it's John Gielgud when he hears, because what ends up happening is that John Merrick, he knows more of that psalm than he's been taught, and like Anthony Hopkins, Treves is even like, I didn't teach him that, and at that point, like, yeah,
it's a real big one. Tropey moment, but
it is.
But I'll take it. It's fine.
But I mean,
the real big important part of this is that he can read.
Yeah.
He says, "I used to read the Bible."
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the one that I think puts him over the edge with everyone. The fact that he can like regurgitate what you say to him.
He's also now actually responding to questions in his own voice.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
In his own language. And it's like, oh wow, okay. So
and
we're in there.
And Gom, the Sir John Gielgud, is like, of course we have to keep him here. He has to stay with us, and that changes everybody's feelings on him, because this immediately Treves is no longer necessarily studying him the same way he was. He becomes friends with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think Merrick too realizes for the first time in his life, he's around people who don't think he's more dangerous because he can think, right? Because when he's just a monster who can think, then that's dangerous to people like Bites wouldn't like to know that.
Well, it reveals, and to the layperson, to the layperson, it's somebody who can now calculate a way that they can kill you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so it's like, and to a woman at that time, mind you, this is also Whitechapel. Did you guys know that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's all happening in Whitechapel, which oddly enough, after he died, the person who ordered the inquest was the same guy who ordered the Jack the Ripper murder inquest in real life.
Interesting.
So yeah, because it was all the same jurisdiction. So I mean, this is a kind of dangerous place to be, and he's a threat to people who don't see the compassion and don't understand that he is a person, not a monster.
Yeah, but he does the psalm and he breaks that barrier. He breaks the barrier that we have of him because we don't know what his intelligence is, as well as the two important people that are in the room with him. And that becomes his in to stay at the hospital, obviously, which is going to make Bites mad.
Yeah.
But yeah, he starts that friendship with Treves.
Oh my goodness! And there's the great scene next where he takes him home.
And meets his wife.
Merrick home to meet his wife to have tea, and you could tell that Treves' wife is kind of holding it together a little bit, but she's like she wants to make sure that she treats him like any other guest, right?
But I don't think she's necessarily scared of him.
No, I think she's taken
aback.
Yes, it's just a shock, right? And more
It's
than
the
anything.
initial shock that then is
But then
quickly
she starts to
overcome.
converse with and then it's so heartbreaking. He's showing them, they're showing family pictures, and he's like, "Well, would you like to see a picture of my mother?" And he pulls out a picture of his mother, and he shows it to them. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, she was beautiful." And he says, "Yes, she had the face of an angel." It's like, I must have been a great disappointment to her.
Yeah, it's so sad.
And it's so sad. And Shreve's wife is just like, at that point, she's like just
She breaks.
overcome with emotion, right? Because of how it's like in that moment, Merrick has been through so much. His words in that moment he doesn't understand, I don't think, how heartbreaking they are. But to her,
she's living this for the first time.
Yes,
he's dealt with it for 20 years, right?
And she's like seeing into his soul. Yeah.
And because she probably comes from a world where that's just impossible to think.
Right.
But this is not the world that Merrick has been from. And I will also say real quick, not to jump too far ahead, one of my favorite arcs is his nurse.
Oh yeah.
Because she's the first one who sees him, that we see him through her. No. I'm talking about the young nurse.
Oh, the younger one. Yeah, she's good too.
Because she's the one that we see him through her eyes first. Yeah. And that actress a year later is in the Monster Club. She's in one of the stories. Yeah.
Is she the one that said Wolfman has nards? I know, I'm joking.
That's not even the same movie.
I know.
That's staying in.
Well, I mean, I said it on purpose.
Right. Now you'd say that you're saying it. Anyway, but no, I like that she's the one that we first see his face through.
Right.
She freaks out a little bit later after he's starting to make friends. She's talking about how ugly she still finds him. She's the one who reads the article about the actress taking an interest in him. And then, later when they go to the show, she's like so excited to get all dressed up to go with him. It's just, it's a nice arc with her that she's like, this has become her life now. And it's not a bad one.
The course of like 7 years.
It's a long time, but still, I mean, it's a character that we don't expect that kind of growth out of.
No, it's good. And I think working with someone like Mrs. Mothershead, who does have like a moral center that anyone could respect.
She has a couple of really good scenes.
Yeah. I mean, she is the one who's always thinking about John.
Yes.
Right? Like she always has his best interests in mind.
She gets violent for him.
To listen. Yes, she does. Oh my God, it's so good.
It's great.
But, yeah, I really love Mrs. Mothershead in this.
She's awesome. As Wendy Hiller, she's an Oscar winner.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a bad performance in this movie? I'd argue probably not.
No. Interestingly, so the Bites' boy, Dexter Fletcher, do you know what he's done in his life?
His face looks super familiar, but I do not know what he's done.
Is not really his face that you would know. He's a director.
I know.
Okay.
I know exactly what we're talking about now. Yep.
He directed Rocket Man.
Yep.
He was the executive.
John.
Yeah, he was the executive producer on Bohemian Rhapsody. Also,
makes sense.
He's also in one of the greatest musicals ever made, Bugsy Malone.
Nice. He's got to be like 120 by now, though, right? Because
he was just a little kid.
I know. I'm joking that the movie's super old.
You're doing the thing.
He was Babyface in Bugsy Malone. That's so rad.
Really?
I never put that together. Yeah.
I mean, he was younger in that than he is in this.
Yeah, he was. Which is funny. Like that movie was directed by Alan Parker, which is the director that Mel Brooks wanted for Elephant Man. Until he saw
Interesting.
Eraserhead. Yep.
He was also in Topsy Turvy, which was Mike Leigh.
Mm-hmm.
So he's done some like musical type of stuff. I mean, yeah. Oh, he's also in The Bounty.
To Mel Brooks' credit, I could actually see Alan Parker directing The Elephant Man. I could see it.
Sure.
Especially like with the wall and everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I could see it. Anyway.
All right. So
Where are we?
So he's come home, and it's he's come back from being at Treeves's house.
Oh yeah.
It's around this time that Anne Bancroft learns of him.
Yeah.
And she's reading the article, and she's like, I think I'd quite like to meet him. And she also has that kind of restraint, like she's somewhat taken aback when she first sees him. But then, like, over a very short period of time, she's become very warm to him.
It's I really like this scene too. Yeah, I don't ever get the sense that Ms. Kendall ever treats him like a curiosity. I think when
but it is in the back of your mind, though. It's like,
Sure.
is she doing this to like hone her craft or something?
Yeah, that's interesting. But I think that she's taken by the description of him.
Yes.
In the article about being soft spoken and articulate and intelligent, and I think the dichotomy of that intrigues her, right, with his supposed deformed appearance.
And maybe she's just not really shallow like a lot of people are.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think she's somewhere in
words,
the...
I'd very much like to meet this Mr. Merrick, right? And she even calls him,
she didn't call him the elephant man.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think there's a genuine, yes, she's interested in him, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And
Not
in
the
real
curiosity.
life,
Not the curiosity, yeah.
and in real life,
Interest and curiosity too. I think there's a distinctive difference in the
sure.
words, right?
it's a thin line, but they're two different concepts. But
Yep.
in real life, it was never for certain if they ever met. But she advocated for him and advocated for people who had deformities.
And I think he did have a picture of her. So maybe
Yes, she sent him an autographed picture of herself.
Yeah.
Yes. And I also get the impression, because his stay has ended up being funded by the royal family. And I think that is entirely, noble and altruistic as well.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think that board meeting is maybe never happened really, but it's the reality of what happened, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to say
It's
that
a nice
differently.
sentimental moment. I think what you stepped away when I was talking about another moment that the way he dies, right, is romanticized.
Oh, yeah.
Like everything is kind of romanticized in this movie, and I think that's also one of the kind of prevalent tones and themes of the movie is sort of the romanticism and that maybe John Merrick or Joseph Merrick was kind of a romantic himself, right?
Romanticism instead of fear and hate, right? Like it's
Yeah. And that's what kind of unfolds in the scene between them when they meet. They recite
because
Romeo and Juliet. And
it's
it's so nice. It's like very tender. Yeah.
Yeah. And, he's experiencing culture in the way that I think he had probably always dreamt of, right? So we talk about romanticism. It's like he's a smart guy stuck in a freak show. He's had to have some thoughts and ideas that have, like, what if I was normal, or what if I was able to be raised? Because you get the impression that his family was not a necessarily poor family, maybe not necessarily rich, but it's.
I wonder as much about the first 20 years of his life after watching this, because of where he, like, not where he starts in this movie, but what you find out about him is that there must have been some kind of care or nurturing or something going on in his early life.
Yep.
Right. And maybe because his deformities were always there and they grew with him, that people around him progressively got like pushed away.
I thought he was born relatively normal.
They said his features were there, but they grew as he grew.
Right. Well, right. Yeah. There was. I don't know. I would guess he had his mother probably loved him like a mother does. That's probably some of the attachment he has to her.
Right.
comes through that.
I do wonder if in real life she stuck
like
around a little longer.
He grew up in a religious family. That's what he says. He read the Bible, right? Book of Common Prayer. So he had like that. I can think as probably mostly as his foundation for his intelligism. Intelligism.
I like these words you're coming up with here. Intellectualism.
Jesus Christ.
Intellect. Yeah. Okay.
And someone taught him to read, right? Maybe his mother, maybe a preacher. Yeah.
Well, again, going back to real life, it is his uncle who claims his, like he identifies and does all the legal stuff, to show that he had died, or whatever. Right. So his family, I think, was still involved. It's just that maybe they couldn't care for him.
Yeah.
Or that he needed to work or something. I don't know. But you get the impression that his family was kind of always there.
My cynical mind just always goes to
they sold him to the circus.
Yeah, they were embarrassed by him, and
you couldn't take him to church.
Was coming through town, and it was easy. Yeah.
Oh, it could have very easily been that, and then they came back around once he became. He was rubbing elbows with.
Right. Once society was presenting itself to him. Yeah.
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 Oh, the royal family, or they know of you.
Right. That too.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal.
Right.
So they do Romeo and Juliet, and she kisses him on the cheek. And that's when the queen or whomever is
the Princess of Wales. Yeah.
Princess of Wales goes to the hospital and is like, oh, he can stay here and we can forget the rest of that boardroom scene because it's just the horse pucky that happens when people disagree.
Right. The horse pucky.
The horse pucky. I don't know.
A lot of horse pucky in the streets during this time of the history.
That's why I said it. They're dumping their piss out windows at this time.
Right. Yeah. Probably right onto people who had to work in the freak show.
Why do you think they smell so bad?
Right. Exactly.
But this is around this time too, is when I don't think we ever caught the guard's name. Did we ever catch
Jim? It's Jim Renshaw. I think they referred to him as Renshaw through it.
Oh yeah, they did. Somebody did say Renshaw in the movie. I remember that now. But now he's
created a new freak show.
Yeah, he has the nighttime freak show where he brings people through, and you never really know for a while what they're doing. Like it looks like they're just looking through windows, maybe, and hopefully not hurting him. Oh, Jason's having problems.
Well, yeah, Jason's having problems
through
windows.
Issues with
the
gear.
Sorry, we can hear
this
it.
This is very it is very surreal, right? It's very David Lynch how this is shot. Like the he's in a safe place, but yet there's a bad actor in the safe place that's creating this nightmare scenario of his night times not being able to be restful.
Oh my God. It's so like Laura Palmer. It's unbelievable.
I'm going to trust you on that, but I can at least identify that it feels very Lynchian.
Yeah. Like it is. The whole feel of that is very Laura Palmer Twin Peaks and her nighttime, but also her psyche breaking and fracturing into two, right?
Well, because he's constantly holding a mirror up to him and forcing him to remember that people think of him this way. And that no matter how many people come and visit him with good intentions, there are 2 or 3 times as many people who will not.
Yeah, and there's a sense that he's compartmentalizing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't fully come to terms, though, with he's right to this point. Yeah, maybe he feels like he's pretending. He's trying to assimilate, but he's being reminded nightly that he will never be a part of society in the way that even the lowest scum like they are, right?
Well, it's like the reverse, right? Like, so the people who come to see him are trying to treat him as a normal human, like the people that come during the day or whatever.
Yeah.
But the freak show is what reality is outside of that, right? Which is the people who are coming to see him. And
just even the window and into the alley, and just like, oh my God, like all of it is just set up so much like he's a freak on display still. Yeah.
Yep. And then we have Bites in the background.
Yeah.
Who is bought his way in the final ticket to go. I mean, are we at this point?
Well, not quite yet, because one of the other things that he's doing that is something that did survive of his time, and it's on display someplace. But he's been building this card puzzle, or this card model of
cardboard model.
Yeah, St. Philip's Church. Yeah,
which is, he can see the top of it out his window.
Actually,
yeah. There is also a really sad, but also a nice reality check, maybe, that there's a conversation shortly after he's met with Treeves's wife, and he asks him, it's like, I've been meaning to ask you, are you able to cure me? And Treeves has said, no, and I can care for you, but I can't cure you.
I love that too.
And he says,
forthright with him.
Yeah, and he says, I thought so. So he's getting the understanding of what he is in this dynamic.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make him, that doesn't sour him, that doesn't make him ungrateful, that doesn't make him feel like he's being used. He's just getting, let's get down to brass tacks here. You know.
But you know, that all these high society people keep coming to see him, and maybe you talked about this when I had to leave, but
a little bit.
But yeah, I mean,
well, it's when the Princess of Wales shows up. That's, you know, that's like, well, he's really somebody now.
But Mrs. Mothershead doesn't like the freak show that Travis has.
Treeves.
Right, he's like, you're just putting him in the same place he was.
I think it's just exactly. People just coming to look at him all over again. Yeah.
And this is when Treeves confronts her by saying, it's like, well, I'm not entirely sure that you have always had this opinion. And she's like, well, I bathed him. I took care of him. You know, it's like, I did my job.
Yeah.
And because the first time he came in, she was a little curt with him, because he wouldn't follow Treeves, and but like, and I think that's what Treeves was trying to call out to her. And he's like, and she's like, oh, no, don't confuse that with me doing my duty. I actually care about this person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to say though, because I think there is a mirror that I talked about between the former and the latter and what's happening to him now. But this is the first time he's getting anything out of it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Of value. So even if he is being paraded a little bit, it's more symbiotic than parasitic, right? Like
yeah, that's true. Mrs. Mothershead, though, she hears the comments that they make as they leave, though, right? So she is more sensitive to the exploitation than maybe Merrick is fully understanding. But he does, I think, come around to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Mothershead is in the right place for sure.
But they're bringing him gifts. He's allowed to converse intellectually. It's actually that one scene with the one couple who you could totally tell they're just
very uncomfortable
because it's a freak show, are so uncomfortable. But he puts them at ease in a way, right?
He's even got himself a nice little Victorian suit. Mm-hmm. You know, but to some of those people, it's like putting a chimpanzee in a suit. Right.
Right.
It's like, isn't this cute?
That they're talking about it in their little society circles, and it's
going to be a situation.
It's another
where
form of exploitation.
And you know how they're talking about it too. In some of those cases, it's like, you should have seen him. They put him in a suit, not he is wearing a suit.
But all of this is what gets him on the radar of the Royals. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, it's absolutely Chuck in the end. I mean, he uses it for all it's worth. He does get something out of it. He ultimately gets a home, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he has Treeves, he has Gom, he has Mothershead, who seem to really like him.
Mm-hmm.
But this all comes to an end rather quickly, right?
gosh,
because
yes.
then you have the nighttime that we were talking about earlier. Where
Yeah, it's a separate incident. There's the nighttime interlude, and then there's another time where they go back, and it gets out of control.
this is when Bites shows up with them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He pays to be a part of the group. And it's when it gets out of control, and yeah, it's a really nasty scene. But Bites,
Because they are extra drunk this time.
yeah, and they're in his room, and yeah,
Because it's one thing when it's in the window, right?
right.
But it's another thing when he's forcing prostitutes to kiss him.
Yeah, yeah. It's pretty rough. Yeah.
Yeah. And
then
yeah,
he
and Bites
does
is
the mirror trick again, and it's just like, oh, yeah.
yeah, and he pours his drink on him too. I think.
Does, yeah.
Yeah,
They
it's
try to pour it into his mouth. They try to make him drink, basically.
right.
And he's coughing it up and stuff. But at the end, it's Bites who shows up and takes him away.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he shows up basically saying it's like, you know, he in a way it's kind of like, well, you see, this is your life. This is what, you know, this isn't you. This is what they see you as, and you know, basically steals him away.
Mm-hmm.
And
Thankfully, there was one man who saw it. Unthankfully, he didn't fucking do anything about it when he saw it. But he does tell Treves when he shows up, he's like, I saw it. We don't actually see the conversation, but he tells Treves that Jim was letting people in.
And Treves gets pissed. And it's like, you do not want to piss Tony Hopkins coming at you.
No, he might
Sick as
eat your
the
liver
dummy
with
on
the
you.
fine Chianti.
Yeah, right.
Or sick as dummy on it.
Yeah. But it's all around nasty stuff.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with him. You don't want to mess with Jim. Wait, Jim's the other guy. Never mind. But yeah, Treves throws him around a little bit, but then Jim gets the upper hand, and I can't remember what the line is said. Like,
Oh, it's
No,
good,
it's,
yeah.
Miss Motherhead, I want you to sack him. Or I'll have
No,
Mrs.
he says
Motherhead
only Mrs. Motherhead can sack.
can sack me.
Yeah.
And then bonk.
bonk, done. Or whatever she
Consider
says.
sacked or something like that. Yeah,
That's what I thought she was going to say. Consider him sacked, but she just says done.
done.
Nice catch, Blanco Nino. Too bad your ass got sacked.
Oh, shit. Help, computer.
But unfortunately, the information that comes to light is that he's probably long gone to the continent by now.
Well, somebody says they left for the continent. I think the
he
word
had
gets
somebody-
out.
or got out.
Somebody found out that he got on a boat with his whole show.
Hey, which one's the continent? Just so I know.
The like Europe.
Europe,
Europe. Okay.
because
That's
it
what
is,
I thought, but it,
Yeah, because he's
because
in
where
Belgium.
they it's in Belgium when
Yeah.
this, and it's funny how it's funny how the Belgians don't react to him the same way as the British did. You know, it's like, man, I'll tell you,
Belgium's
those
a
British.
feast of freaks apparently. Yeah.
Well, I mean, those British Isles, they're isolated, man. I mean, like that's where all the rage virus is.
I think also, though,
It's like,
to be
get
fair,
them the fuck out of here.
to be fair, I think that there's a disgust because they can see that he's not well,
Yes,
the Belgians are probably a little bit more.
and they're disgusted with Bite.
Yeah, they're a little bit more compassionate just by nature to the situation that Merrick is.
Well,
in.
it's one thing to go to see.
It's all those waffles
It's
they
another thing
eat.
to see like someone who's
dying
clearly
man.
dying in front
Yeah.
of you. Yeah, regardless of what he looks like, right?
Yeah, because he barely can stand. He's not walking too well. He's then put up on a stool, which he falls off of,
Yes.
and all of this leads to Bites again drunkenly throwing him in with the baboons.
Mm-hmm.
Baboons are not safe animals,
The boy is trying to argue against it.
but there's no arguing with Bites in this
but
case.
this is when
But-
the freaks unite.
Yes, Kenny Baker to the rescue.
I know, go Kenny Baker is so rad.
Kenny
rad.
Baker. All right, let me look this up.
Oh,
that's a
come
great
on,
name.
Chuck.
That's one of the great names in Dwarfdom.
Yes.
I mean,
Okay.
no joke. One of the great names in Dwarfdom.
Oh, I know him as Kenneth the George Baker. My bad.
Ah, there it is.
Anyway, they are like, we're gonna get you out of here, and they open the cage and they get him out of there. And
They all get on the boat and go back to England.
Yeah.
they all did. I thought just he did.
Well, maybe
No,
he
I
did.
think just he did because they kind of have
That
the
is,
nod.
because
Kenny
but
Baker and
Kenny
Merrick
Baker's
kinda have
making
the-
sure he
Yes,
gets back,
yes.
and then
Because they still have their
They
jobs.
still have
that are
their
making-
show. Yeah.
right. But they land in Liverpool. Now, Liverpool,
I really wish there was.
They don't read the
additional scene of them,
newspapers.
like doing one of us around around Bite though. 'Cause, man,
oh, that would have been great.
One
Like
of us,
fusing him to a fucking alligator.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
That's where if you want to see what happens to Bite, watch Todd Browning's Freak.
Yes. And also gender swap him. But that's okay. Yeah.
I was gonna say that's not him, is it?
Oh my God. Yeah. Freddie, God, he wouldn't even been born, I don't think, when Freaks came out.
Probably not.
Yeah, this is a 1980s movie.
Yeah, I know. This is an 80s movie. Yeah. But no, so they get back and it's Liverpool where the big moment, the line that everybody knows, that everybody can repeat.
Yeah.
The Liverpudlians do not read the paper apparently because they don't know what this thing is that's landed on their shore.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And some kids start to kind of gawk at him. He runs into a little girl, knocks her over,
Almost
which gets
Frankenstein's her. Yeah.
exactly, which causes the angry mob to come after him and surround him. And they rip off the bag on his head, and he's like, this is when he's like, "I'm not an animal. I'm,
He's like, now I'm a man.
I'm a human being.
yeah."
Yeah. This is the scene. This scene from him getting off the boat and getting cornered is what I remember
Oh yeah.
most as a child.
Yeah.
And being like Frankensteinish kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But the cops come along and they know who he is.
Yeah. They
They read the paper.
they kind of apprehend him, get him out of the mob, and they get him safely to the hospital. Yeah.
Which is shocking as hell, as any cop would recognize that he's the one who's in trouble, not that he's causing the trouble. But apparently in 1880,
There's several moments of sentimentalism in this movie that
sure.
that is really like a lot of people are surprised by the sentimentalism of that, but Lynch is kind of sentimental guy. Like
He is. Because in that interview that I watched on the Criterion Disc, to hear him talk about like how much he loves digital film, it's like this guy's like his heart's growing in front of me.
yeah, you got him in his embracement of digital film phase with that interview. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, so he. So it's like he gets brought back to the hospital, but at this point they know he's dying. That it was removing him from his home has ultimately broken him.
It accelerated his.
Yeah, and it's almost like he's dying of depression.
Do we know how long he was gone this time? Has it been a couple years or? Because time is not a construct in this
It really
film,
isn't.
No, it really
Sense
isn't.
of time passing in this, other than the traditional linear.
which is okay. Like the relationships make sense when you know he lived from 21 to 28.
I mean, you can
think.
kind of
Yeah.
see it. Yeah, you could kind of see it, right? As his apartment sort of grows with things, and it's more lived in.
Well, and he's
Right,
also
and
like
less
he
sterile.
arranges his things, the things he's collected. Like
Yeah, he put his pictures on the mantelpiece. Like
he
talked about
pulls
earlier.
out his
right.
little silver toothbrush, and he's like,
yes, his,
it's like a little mantle
his
that
wash
he's.
box or whatever. It's
Yeah,
called,
yeah.
Who knows how long it took him to build that little cardboard church or whatever.
It's implied a long time.
With one, working hand, right?
Yeah.
My goodness, yeah.
Anyway,
So this is when they get all gussied up to go to another. They go to Club Silencio. Because this is very Lynchian too.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I mean, like, so he's going to see a pantomime, which I'm thinking, people in tuxedos went to pantomimes because this is some silly stuff. It's like prancing people dressed up as animals. It's weird, man. It is weird. And then you see
probably Mozart, man. He had some weird shit.
That's true. I mean, we saw that movie. We know what he was up to.
Well, yeah, he was a hilarious guy.
He was.
What was it? His laugh was so.
Oh yeah, it's like it's fucking
Yeah,
it's the Riddler. Yeah, he's a Batman villain, Mozart. But anyway, so
a giggle, like
but he's there with Princess Alexandra, and he's sitting in the box with his nurse. He's and Mrs. Mothershead's there too, I believe, and then of course
most of the most of the hospital caretaker people.
Yes,
are there.
Treves and his wife, right?
Treves and his wife are there, and this is when I was saying, like, beforehand, it's like you get the sense that that Nora is like this is a nice part of taking care of him. She gets to get all gussied up to go to the show too. And like, there's that change in her where it looks like it almost comes across like she's being prepared for a date, it's just a nice element to it.
It totally is. But like I don't want to say platonic, because I don't even think that's it.
No, but
she wants to be there for him.
Right, and part of it is that you're going to look your best at this place.
I think it's friendship.
I do think it does turn into that.
Yeah,
you think so? It's not explored enough in the movie for me to really say, but you can tell she cares.
Yeah, it gets to the point where she's scared to thinking he's ugly, to becoming curious about him, to becoming his friend. Is what I see.
Yeah, I think so too.
But. Sure. But anyway, they're all there, and the show is, and he's like just taken aback by the show, like all of these things happening. It comes out like a kaleidoscope in his mind, and I'm thinking, I don't want to go to a pantomime. This is what I would see too, I think. But anyway, at the end, Miss Kendall comes out and dedicates the show to him, which that's just the final thing he needed in life.
All the crowd stands up and cheers for him, and it's like it's the culmination of his life that he needed, and it does feel like the funeral before the funeral.
Yes,
right. This is what he gets to hear what the people will say about him after he's dead at this moment.
Yep,
that's kind of what it felt like to me. But
it's his friend Madge Kendall delivering the eulogy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's already, well, they even asked her. I mean, she knew he was dying.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's very, very real in that sense. Yeah. At least in the context.
But then you have, so there'd been mentions, we haven't even brought this up yet, about how he has to sleep.
Yeah.
I did briefly. You stepped
away. Yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah.
I didn't mention it then. I'm going to.
There you go. Do it then.
He has to sit on his bottom and basically rest his head between his knees because his head's too big.
Right.
And he's had a picture on his wall of someone sleeping like the traditional, I guess he called it the traditional
head on a pillow.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Head on a pillow.
Down.
That he kind of like looks at from time to time.
Yeah, and he's pined for that. He's told Treves, "I wish I could sleep like a normal person." Yeah.
And in this moment, we know everyone knows outside of him that he's dying, but now we learn that he knows he's dying too, right? Because I know there's the whole romantic part of him, like this is the highest his life is ever going to get, right?
Yeah, because he's gotten to his first show. It's been dedicated to him. And what's he do when he gets home? He finishes his model.
So that it's a pretty like
so all the bows are tied. Yep.
Yes, it's a pretty bow wrap. But I think at the same time, in his mind, he knows he's dying too.
Yes.
He's like, if I'm going to die, I'm going to sleep on a pillow with my head on a pillow. So he removes all the pillows from his bed because he has to have like 9 pillows so he can sit against them when he sleeps, and he just lays down. And somebody has to tell me what the hell this last line is about because I don't really know.
It's from a poem.
It's from a Tennyson poem.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
Alfred, huh? Lord Tennyson.
Yep. And it's essentially his soul reuniting with his mother visually.
Well, yeah, because the picture and the celestial. Yeah.
And there's a little bit of Dune opening. Damn you, David.
David sticks to some images.
He sure does.
He does.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
very Eraserhead too.
Yes. I'm assuming that this was something that she used to read to him or say to him
Probably.
when he was a baby. My guess is that I would not be terribly surprised if there's more of his mother on the cutting room floor somewhere.
Oh, gross. Oh, you mean
Yeah, she's down in the mess hall being chopped up for food.
did Michael Jackson buy her skull?
Oh God.
I should shut up.
No, Prince did.
Prince did.
the two pop weirdos. They split up the Merrick family.
Oh my God.
But
over there in Paisley Park
with
right
that,
now.
With that take, Jeff, he's being reunited with his mother. Or nothing. Really
And it's
dies.
gotta be something that he recognizes from her.
Yeah. And it's just another final sign of his intellect, right? This is what he's thinking about. It's poignant in that sense as you die that you would think of this. The last line of the poem is actually "All things will change."
Nothing ever dies. All things will change.
Yep.
It is a very beautiful, heartfelt, sentimental film that's wrapped up a little neatly, but I like it in the context of this film.
I think it works in a couple of different ways too, and how neatly it's wrapped up. Like in one regard, it's neatly wrapped up because its purpose is for us for us to have sympathy for this character, right?
We should be the way this film is.
Right, exactly. Number two, it's made in such an old style from 45 years ago, feeling like it's 40 years before that, that it is, it is told in the way that with some Lynchian visual stuff, but in the end, it is the same happy ending that studios would have demanded from a movie, and this being mostly a independent film until it got picked up by Paramount, decided to opt to do in this kind of old style, plus being black and white, plus being sentimental, all of that stuff. I think it's just,
of course, Paramount wanted to get rid of all the surreal stuff. They wanted it out.
Of course.
That's another thing that Mel Brooks went to bat on.
Awesome. Thank you, Mel Brooks. One thing I wanted to talk about, because you were talking about the industrial age and I was talking about like our machinery, and there's a scene in this movie where I think it's when Merrick is sent back to the circus and goes to the continent, and he's being tossed around, and they're showing like locomotives and other machines running with all sorts of black smoke. I'm like, this is like the perfect image for what is happening to this man right now, while also, I think, making that commentary you were talking about earlier, Jason. I don't know. It was just good stuff. I was kind of blown away by that scene. I'm like, it makes so much sense. This poor man.
Yeah.
It's all black smoke in his body.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's got the men like, turning the machine.
Yes.
I don't know if I fully understand all of the visual cue there, but I get what you're saying. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it said to me. So
yeah. No, I'll go with that. Gladly will go along with that. This is, I mean, we touched upon it earlier. I mean, this is one of those movies that is beautiful in multifaceted ways, right? It looks beautiful. The performances are beautiful. The story is beautiful. And it's all wrapped up around something that we're supposed to think is ugly, or that society would tell us is ugly.
Yeah. One of the things I thought watching is this movie is simultaneously terrifying but beautiful, right? It's like this perfect balance of it. I mean, the drones, the ambient sounds, like everything, the way that every shot is composed is just fucking work of art for one thing. But gives you a sense of sort of dread, even especially in the first half. It starts to lighten in the second half, and it's more deliberate in those moments. But there's just something so like beautiful in it, and I think that's Merrick himself, right? He's got this outward, terrifying appearance that once you get over it, you confront it, you start to see the beauty. So there's beauty in scary things, right? Mm-hmm. Is maybe with the theme I'm trying to pick at here.
It's the best of us versus the worst of us, and it's a tie through half of the movie, right?
Yeah,
it's a tie, and Merrick, being the best of us, despite of his appearance, brings out the best in other people. Enough of the other people.
Yeah.
To make this a beautiful thing.
And you could say in some ways that Merrick himself tips the scale.
Yeah, he absolutely does. He's
the one guy who makes it 51-49.
Yep.
Because, as Jeff said, like Carr Gom and Trevis and all those people they're on the 50-50 science spectrum, and they totally flip to the human spectrum.
Well, it's Gom's line of, I can't imagine the life he's living, and I can't imagine you do either. Right. Saying that the trees.
I can't imagine anybody does.
I can't imagine anybody does. Yep. And it's like, it's the softening of John Gielgud, that's really something. If you can soften that guy, you're going to do well, I think,
But it's really well done. Like David Lynch fucking knocked this thing out of the park.
Nailed it.
The performances absolutely help. The cinematography, again, like I was kind of astounded. The most astounding thing to me was how this looked.
Yes.
When I watched it this time, I was like, oh my God, it's gorgeous. But
yeah. And it's kind of, some people think it's one of the best films, at least of the 80s, that didn't win Best Picture, if not more than just the 80s.
Mel Brooks said, in 10 years, nobody's going to remember Ordinary People, but they'll still be watching The Elephant Man.
Right. But
smart man, Mel Brooks.
It's up against, I mean, it's an incredible roster for Best Picture that year. I mean, it's Ordinary People, which beat Raging Bull, which beat The Elephant Man, which beat Coal Miner's Daughter. Yep. And then there's still Tess, a Roman Polanski movie in there. So it's, I mean, that's an incredible roster there.
Yeah, that has a little bit of American Beauty written all, or not American Beauty, Shakespeare in Love written all over it, though, doesn't it? Like,
no, I mean, Ordinary People.
Maybe the campaigning.
Ordinary People was very well liked. It wasn't as well liked as Raging Bull. It's more accurate to say it's a Dances with Wolves Goodfellas split. One of those two movies were going to win.
Honestly, Raging, I mean, that's another beautifully
I mean,
movie. It's kind of rough to even like, man, that's a wonderful movie. That might be my favorite Scorsese movie.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those movies where Ordinary People might have been helped by a plurality of the other four movies being really hard to pick from.
Oh, you know who else was nominated for Best Director that year? The director of Color of Night.
Oh yeah, Richard Rush. Uh-huh. Yeah,
He's for the stuntman.
Yeah. Back in the days when four directors would have lined up with picture, and then the outside movie Coal Miner's Daughter had no chance of winning at that point. That's just how things used to be.
Yep.
Now when there's 10 Best Picture nominees, all of them get a Best Director nomination typically. So,
8 Academy Awards, didn't win any of them. Somehow, some way, it was not nominated for Best Cinematography, which is
that's amazing. Crazy. Yeah.
When Lynch found out the nominations, his wife called him, Mary Fisk, and he said the first thing he asked was, "Did Freddie get a nomination?" And the second thing he asked was, what about Alan Splint, the sound designer? Longtime collaborator with Lynch, did all the sound design on Eraserhead. And he didn't get nominated either. The two things, and then of course there was no makeup category.
No.
It was created the next year because of the backlash for Elephant Man not being recognized in any way for the makeup design.
That's insane to me. This didn't win a single thing.
Yeah, and I do want to say real quick, the music in this is fantastic because it starts off with that scary organ grinder music, then turns into like that orchestral, beautiful, romantic score.
I meant to mention that. I'm totally with you because it's like Puppet Master to start, and then by the end, it's like a real drama orchestral score. Like the score grows with the movie, which is
with the perception of John Merrick.
Yeah,
there's a
awesome.
few things there too. Adagio with strings is used, I think, at the beginning and when it moves away from the organ grinder, and then definitely at the end. Then the rest of the score was by it was a Mel Brooks collaborator. What's his name? John Morris.
Oh yeah, John.
And John Morris was not happy about them using Adagio with strings. He's like, I composed music for this. I'm the composer, right? Like very, very old school. And Lynch had to show both versions of the movie to John Morris and Mel Brooks with the different score pieces swapped out. And David Lynch says, I want to give you a piece of advice. If you ever have to show your movie twice, show them the edit you like best first. Because after it, Mel Brooks turned to John Morris and says, I think I like the Adagio with strings better. And John Morris just stood up his hands and said, fine. His point too is that again, like it was a popular piece of music at the time, and he felt it would be ephemeral, right? He thought that it would stick out like a sore thumb as the film aged, and he thought it deserved better than that. So he was coming from somewhat of a place of altruism, but he also was like, I'm the composer.
right.
Yeah, in fact, I think when just this past Oscars, I think when they talked about A Complete Unknown being nominated for like 8 or 10 and not winning any, conversation of The Elephant Man snuck back into like, it's like, yeah, that's another movie nominated many, many times, didn't get any.
But yeah, the cinematography, that one blows my mind. It really does.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. Like, at least get nominated. That's crazy to me. But anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, it's kind of interesting that the last movie of this month of remembrance is the last line is "Nothing will die."
Yeah. Yeah. That is interesting. We totally planned it that way.
Totally.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Well, now for something completely different. What's
hell yeah! It's comic book month next month. I'm
John
taking
Cleese
over
at a desk.
Yeah, I'm taking over. I'm taking over July, and I decided. Originally, I was like, there's some good comic book movies that from over the last, well, I guess technically 30 years is how far we're spanning, but I thought, well, and as it turns out, two of the most important figures in comic book history are getting new movies in July. So let's just celebrate comic books. So that's what July is going to be all about. We're going to kick things off with a movie that I giggle like a fucking maniac all the way through all the time. Scott Pilgrim versus the World. To be honest with you, outside of Juno, I don't know if Michael Cera has ever been more perfectly cast in anything.
Yeah.
than as Scott Pilgrim. But anyway, it's a hell of a cast in that movie too, as it would turn out.
Yeah, you have one actress plays two parts. It's crazy.
Oh my God, it's already melted your brain. It's already melting your brain. Oh my God. There's a big difference between Ramona Flowers and Envy Adams.
Luckily they look like drastically different as characters, so I can easily separate them.
They look drastically different all the time.
But honestly, I can never remember which one is named which.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Tune in next week to find out why.
Yeah, tune in next week and hear Jason's brain melt over having
We'll talk about face blindness.
Yes, it's a very serious topic.
I said tune in next week to find out.
So anyway, July 2nd kicks off 5 straight comic book
too.
Yeah. Most definitely. But yeah, we've got some good ones on tap for next week, or for next month rather. So I think it's going to be a good old fun time. We're going to do a little slinging. We're going to do a little mutating. We're going to do a little
Crowing.
Crowing.
Shit.
We're gonna definitely do some tackling the government, fascist government. So it's gonna be.
That's not a euphemism.
It's a pretty good mix.
We're doing it.
I would say, yeah.
Tackling the government.
I think it's an interesting mix. Yeah,
we have two Marvel sequels back to back that are kind of
no, not back to back, but
I thought not back to back.
no, they're not back to back,
Okay.
but they are two of my all-time favorite comic book movies. They had to be picked. So
Gotcha.
Good pick, bub.
exactly. Thank you, Lil Wolvie. Man. Anyway. All right. So that starts next Wednesday, July 2nd. Go to filmseizure.com. That's where you'll find all of our episodes, all the stuff that we're doing. So there's that. And then this upcoming Monday, also at Film Seizure, you will find the last Gamera movie on Monster Mondays. It'll be Gamera the Brave, little kiddie version that's still pretty solid.
So it's the last one you can ever cover, or the last one that's been made?
Last one that's been made.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'll probably eventually do the Netflix series Rebirth that they did a couple of years ago. So I can still do something Gamera, but this
Gotcha.
is the last. This is the last one made. Anyway, so that's also at filmseizure.com. That is Monday, June 30th. This upcoming Friday at my website and bmovieanima.com. And I mean, yes, I'm going to say this in the very serious Elephant Man episode. Come read my review of Monstered.
Monster.
I have nothing. Monstered. It's a monster turd. It's a turd monster.
Monster turd.
Yeah, it's a
Monstered.
turd monster.
You've got monstered.
You've got turds.
You've got poop.
You've got poop. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it at monstered.
Okay.
So until next week. I'm Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm Mr. Father's Head.
Monstered. You've been listening to Film Seizure.